Imagine a terrifying medical mystery for a second. Like, you get really serious about your health.
Right? You put in the work.
Exactly. You lose 20 kilograms. You get entirely off all your daily medications. Every single time you test yourself, your numbers look absolutely pristine.
Which is, the dream scenario.
It is. You look in the mirror
Yeah.
and you feel invincible. But then, and this is the terrifying part, a decade later, despite feeling completely fine for years, you wake up and discover a ticking time bomb has been quietly dismantling your nervous system.
Wow.
Yeah. And it leaves you completely blind.
I mean, it is the ultimate diagnostic trap. It really is. It just completely shatters our standard expectation of illness, where we just assume that, if we're sick, we will feel sick.
Right. Pain equals problem.
Exactly. But with these chronic systemic conditions, the absence of immediate pain does not mean the absence of damage.
And that silent damage is exactly what we are focusing on today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at a deeply personal, really powerful presentation by a man named Osman. He's actually known as the blind Muslim yogi.
Right, yeah.
Osman is an entrepreneur. He's an energy healer, a yoga and meditation teacher. And he is sharing the reality of his decades-long battle with diabetes.
And his account is so critical for you to hear because it really serves as a map of the pitfalls of managing a chronic disease.
Yeah.
I mean, he initially thought he had completely beaten his condition,
Right.
only to face these devastating, irreversible consequences years down the line simply because he misunderstood how the disease operates on a cellular level.
So our mission today is to extract his holistic approach to managing this condition. And let me be clear right at the top, we aren't just going to list generic dietary tips like, eat your vegetables and take the stairs.
Yeah, we've all heard that a million times.
Exactly. We are looking at an urgent warning about the hidden damage of diabetes and a very specific roadmap to preserving your quality of life.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we really have to start by dismantling the single most dangerous myth about this disease.
The illusion of the cure.
Yes, the illusion of the cure.
Which is basically the idea that normal blood sugar numbers today mean you are permanently safe. I mean, let's look at Osman's history to see how seductive this illusion actually is. He did the hard work. He dropped his waistline from 46 inches down to 34 inches.
Which is massive.
It's incredible. And he successfully got himself off his diabetes medications.
I mean, everyone around you would be giving you high fives for that. You would feel like you crossed the finish line.
Oh, 100%.
Osman stated very clearly that he felt he was cured. And because he felt cured, and his standard blood sugar tests were coming back completely normal, he started reintroducing sweet products into his diet. Chocolates, ice creams, desserts.
Right, just a little treat here and there. Yeah. And he would test his blood sugar after eating these treats, and the numbers still looked great.
And what's fascinating here is the really insidious nature of the disease's timeline. Diabetes is never truly cured. It's only managed.
Right.
Osman learned the hard way that this disease operates on a brutal 5 to 10 year delay. I mean, you do not eat an ice cream cone and wake up blind the next morning.
It sounds exactly like having termites in your house.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Like, the paint on the walls looks pristine, the drywall holds up perfectly when you lean against it, so you look around and assume your house is structurally sound.
Because you can't see the insects slowly eating away at the framing inside the walls.
Exactly. By the time the roof finally caves in a decade later, the damage is total. You just didn't see it happening.
Yeah, that analogy perfectly illustrates the physiological reality. Even if a basic point-in-time blood sugar test appears normal, occasional influxes of refined sugar create this underlying metabolic dysfunction.
Like a slow burn.
Precisely. On a microscopic level, glucose molecules in high concentrations act almost like tiny shards of glass or toxic sludge inside your bloodstream.
Wow, tiny shards of glass. That is a horrifying image.
It's terrifying, but it's what's happening. They slowly degrade your microvascular system, those incredibly tiny, fragile blood vessels that supply oxygen and nutrients to your most sensitive organs.
Right, like your eyes and nerves.
Exactly. The capillaries feeding your nerves and your eyes are quietly being eroded day by day, year by year. You aren't paying the invoice for that dessert tomorrow. You're paying it a decade from now.
And the invoice Osman eventually paid was severe. 10 years after he thought he was completely in the clear, just eating those occasional sweets, he was hit with stress-associated neuropathy and glaucoma.
Which are both devastating.
Extremely. I mean, neuropathy means the actual nerve fibers in the body start to die off because they're starved of blood. It causes either complete numbness or agonizing constant pain.
And then the glaucoma on top of that.
Right. Glaucoma is when fluid pressure builds up inside the eye and physically crushes the optic nerve. So today, Osman is completely blind. He lost his eyesight permanently just for trusting a temporary metric.
It forces a fundamental shift in how we have to view dietary illness. I mean, if the termite damage is happening invisibly, caused by even occasional lapses, the rules of engagement for someone managing diabetes have to change completely.
Which brings us to how Osman adapted his protocol to stop the progression of his nerve damage once he realized what was actually happening.
Because he had to do something drastic.
He couldn't reverse the blindness, sadly, but he had to save the rest of his nervous system from collapsing. And that requires a diet that is entirely non-negotiable. He's absolutely uncompromising on this point. If you're managing diabetes, refined sugars must be viewed as literal poison.
Literal poison.
Yeah, it is not a sometimes food. It is not something you have a tiny slice of at a wedding just to be polite. Complete and total removal is the cornerstone of his survival protocol.
And he actually extends that strict boundary to fats and oils as well, which is a really crucial distinction.
Right, because usually the conversation around diabetes is just about sugar.
Exactly. But Osman advocates cutting out all vegetable oils and saturated animal fats entirely. That means processed meats, burger patties, kebabs, basically foods heavily reliant on saturated fat and spices for flavor.
So if you are cutting out all of those fats, what is actually left to fuel the body?
He heavily prioritizes plant-based fats, nuts, seeds, avocados. He mentions a little bit of olive oil in small moderation is acceptable.
Oh wait, speaking of oils, he has a very specific rule regarding flaxseed oil and chia seed oil that really caught my attention.
Oh yeah, the fridge rule.
Yes. If you use them to get your daily omega-3s, you limit it to about 1 tablespoon a day, and it must be 100% natural, cold-pressed, and minimally processed. But the main directive is you have to buy it from a fridge, never a regular supermarket aisle.
Which makes total sense when you think about it.
Well, let me think about the mechanics of that. Like, if it's sitting on a warm shelf under fluorescent lights, the oil must be oxidizing, right? You are basically buying a rancid product.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Omega-3 fatty acids are incredibly fragile molecules. When exposed to heat and light for extended periods, they oxidize and degrade.
So they go bad before you even open the bottle.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And consuming oxidized oils actually drives systemic inflammation in the body. If you were diabetic, your blood vessels and nerves are already fighting chronic inflammation from metabolic dysfunction.
Wow, so I make it worse.
Way worse. Pouring oxidized rancid oil on top of that is like throwing gasoline on a fire. The fridge protects the integrity of the oil, keeping it a therapeutic tool rather than a liability.
And he leans heavily on medical research to back all this up, specifically referencing Dr. Jason Fung's work.
Right. Dr. Fung's research is foundational here.
Yeah, he focuses heavily on how restricting refined carbohydrates and relying on healthy proteins and plant-based fats can halt the progression of nerve and kidney damage. It all comes down to minimizing the insulin response.
Because Dr. Fung's research centers on the concept of hyperinsulinemia, which is chronically high insulin levels. We usually think of insulin merely as the hormone that lowers blood sugar.
Right. Yeah, that's what most people are taught.
But insulin is also a potent growth hormone. It tells the body to store fat. And it can drive inflammation when it's constantly elevated. Every time you consume refined carbohydrates, your body pumps out massive amounts of insulin just to deal with the sugar spike.
So if you keep doing that over years,
The body becomes resistant to the insulin, meaning you need more and more of it just to keep blood sugar stable.
think of insulin like a key that unlocks your cells to let energy in. If you constantly flood your system with refined sugar, the locks on your cells just get jammed. The key stops working.
That's a great way to visualize it.
So your cells are actually starving for energy while the excess sugar just backs up in your bloodstream, eroding those tiny blood vessels we talked about earlier. To fix the jammed lock, you have to stop turning the key. You have to stop flooding the system with refined carbohydrates.
This raises an important question, though. Osman acknowledges how incredibly difficult this transition is. I mean, we're talking about fundamentally altering how a person interacts with food.
It's a massive psychological hurdle. We live in a world built around social eating. Treating a slice of birthday cake like it is a severe peanut allergy requires an immense amount of mental fortitude.
It really does.
Food is connection. Food is family. Saying no to that feels isolating.
And Osman tackles that psychological barrier with a lot of empathy, actually. He knows it is a steep learning curve, and it's made infinitely harder by the internet.
Oh, the internet makes everything harder.
Right. Go online, and you are immediately bombarded with fantastic claims of quick, natural cures. Supplements promising you can just take a pill and eat whatever you want.
Which is exactly what people want to hear.
Of course. The temptation to believe those claims and avoid the difficult lifestyle changes is overwhelming. But Osman uses his own blindness as the ultimate counterargument. He tells his audience directly that he is sitting there, blind, trying to recover his eyesight, and he is demanding this strictness so it doesn't happen to them.
The strictness isn't a punishment. It is just a necessary boundary meant to save the body's hardware.
Exactly.
Once you get the diet dialed in, you stop the active poisoning. You stop flooding the bloodstream with glucose and jamming the insulin locks. But stopping the damage isn't the same as repairing the engine. To actually rebuild metabolic health, you have to force the body to adapt.
Right.
That brings us to Osman's physical regimen and his surprisingly rigid view on body metrics.
Keep in mind, this is a man who went from requiring 5 insulin injections a day, alongside blood pressure and cholesterol medications, down to 0 medications.
Down to 0. That's unbelievable.
It is. And he achieved that through a masterclass in progressive adaptation. He didn't just decide to become a fitness model overnight. He started with the absolute mildest form of exercise, simply walking daily.
Walking is the perfect entry point because it's sustainable. You can just do it. Once the daily walk was an ingrained habit, he moved to bodyweight fitness.
Step by step.
Yep. From there, he progressed to actual strength training with weights. And building muscle is crucial here because muscle tissue acts as a glucose sink.
The glucose sink, yes.
The more muscle mass you have, the more places your body has to store sugar out of the bloodstream, which directly improves insulin sensitivity. And throughout all of this physical progression, he integrated yoga and meditation.
And the yoga and meditation serve a very specific physiological purpose beyond just, flexibility. They are tools for stress management.
Right, because stress messes with your blood sugar too.
Big time. Chronic stress causes the body to release cortisol, the fight or flight hormone. Cortisol's primary job in an emergency is to dump stored glucose into the bloodstream so you have the energy to run from a predator.
Oh, we aren't running from predators anymore. We're just stressed about emails.
Exactly. If you are chronically stressed, you're constantly dumping sugar into your own blood, totally undermining your dietary efforts. Managing stress through meditation directly helps manage blood sugar.
But the most vital component of his entire action plan is what he calls the medical alliance. Osman is a holistic energy healer. He teaches meditation, yet he states unequivocally that natural therapies never replace medical treatment.
Never.
He achieved his results dropping the insulin, halting the neuropathy under strict medical supervision. He worked hand in hand with his doctors, followed their testing protocols, and used his lifestyle changes to support his body's healing capacity, not to defy modern medical science.
And that alliance ties directly into his intense focus on hard data. Osman is ruthless about tracking metrics. He warns against relying on the mirror or listening to friends who tell you that you look fine or that you're just big-boned.
The classic excuses.
Yeah. He insists you must know the exact healthy weight range for your specific height as defined by medical standards, and you must aim for the dead center of that range.
Dead center.
Yeah, like if the healthy range for your height is 60 to 75 kilograms, you don't aim for 74 and call it a success. You aim for 67 or 68.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about the irony of that stance. You have a natural energy healer, a profession usually built around concepts like, listening to your body and trusting your intuition.
Right, the very holistic approach.
Yeah, and he's looking right at the camera and telling people not to trust their intuition. Do not trust the mirror. Trust hard data, trust your medical team, and trust a tape measure.
It sounds like a contradiction until you look at the structural limitations of our medical system. I mean, consider a standard visit to a general practitioner. A doctor typically has an average of maybe 10 minutes per patient.
If you're lucky.
Exactly. In those 10 minutes, they have to review lab results, issue a diagnosis, write a prescription, and move to the next room. They physically do not have the time to explain the granular mechanisms of microvascular damage or coach a patient through the emotional turmoil of giving up their favorite foods.
The doctor can give you the target metrics, but they can't be in your kitchen slapping the donut out of your hand.
Right. Osman's protocol is ultimately about taking personal ownership of the 23 hours and 15 minutes of the day when the doctor isn't in the room with you.
Which is the hardest part.
It is. You have to be the one using the tape measure. You have to be the one choosing the cold-pressed, refrigerated flaxseed oil. The doctor provides the compass, but you have to walk the road.
And taking ownership of those 23 hours and 50 minutes requires immense discipline. The strict diet, the progressive strength training, the daily metric tracking.
That's a lot.
Eventually, the initial motivation of just wanting to lose a few pounds or have more energy is going to fade. You need a profound, unshakable reason to stick to the protocol when everyone around you is indulging. That brings us to Osman's most visceral message.
Because when the motivation inevitably wanes, people often fall back on a very specific, seductive rationalization to justify quitting. We hear it all the time regarding diet and lifestyle changes.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
They say, I want to enjoy my food, I want to live my life. If I die a few years early because I ate the cake, then I die. At least I was happy.
It frames indulgence as freedom and early death as a quick, painless penalty paid at the very end of a joyful life.
But Osman counters this excuse with a blunt reality check. He states that dying early isn't the actual problem. In his experience, dying early is a gift compared to the reality of late-stage diabetes complications.
So what does this all mean?
He systematically dismantles the romantic idea of just peacefully dropping dead after a good meal. He forces the listener to confront the disease's actual endgame. When unmanaged diabetes finally collapses the house, it is not a sudden implosion.
No. We're talking about amputated feet, amputated arms, being tethered to kidney dialysis machines for hours a week just to survive. Debilitating strokes.
It's brutal.
Osman uses the phrase living in napkins, describing the total loss of control over basic bodily functions. His warning is stark. You do not go to your grave peacefully. You go to your grave piece by piece.
And piece by piece is medically accurate. Those eroded microvessels eventually fail completely. The tissues they supply die off from lack of oxygen.
Because the blood can't get there.
Right. First you lose a toe, then a foot, then your vision, then your kidney function. It is a slow, agonizing dismantling of the human body.
It means we fundamentally miscalculate the risk of dietary illnesses. We harbor deep-seated fears of sudden dramatic events, plane crashes, shark attacks.
Things that happen in an instant.
Yes. Yet we will sit down and invite a slow, agonizing dismantling of our own independence, meal by meal, simply because the sugar tastes good in the moment. We weigh the temporary joy of a dessert against the eventual risk of losing a limb, and we get the math entirely wrong because the consequence is delayed.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, though, Osman isn't delivering this grim reality just to terrify his audience.
No, not at all.
Within this dark assessment, he is offering an incredible message of hope. By doing the hard work, treating refined sugar as poison, building muscle to improve insulin sensitivity, and relentlessly tracking his metrics, he didn't just halt his decline.
He actually got better.
Over a period of 6 years, he reversed 99% of his neuropathy. He went from living in constant agonizing nerve pain to having to concentrate intensely just to feel a faint tinge of it.
Wow. He couldn't recover his sight, but he saved his nervous system from further collapse. He saved his limbs. He kept his mobility.
And the ultimate goal of this entire holistic protocol is not merely longevity. It isn't just about adding a few more years to your lifespan so you can sit motionless in a chair. It is about preserving human dignity.
Preserving human dignity. I love that.
It is about maintaining your independence, your mobility, and your bodily autonomy right up until the very end. That is the true reward for treating your body's machine with the respect it requires.
Preserving human dignity. Let's recap the toolkit we've extracted from Osman's journey today. First, never trust the illusion of a cure. Just because your numbers temporarily look good on paper, the damage operates on a decade-long delay.
The termite effect.
Exactly. Second, if you are managing this condition, treat refined sugars as an absolute poison. Strictly manage your fats by eliminating vegetable oils and saturated animal fats, and seek out cold-pressed, refrigerated flaxseed oil for your omega-3s.
Keep it in the fridge.
Keep it in the fridge. Third, build a progressive physical routine, starting with a simple walk and moving towards strength training to build glucose-absorbing muscle. Finally, track your hard metrics honestly, aiming for the exact middle of your healthy weight range, and do all of this in lockstep with your medical professionals.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Osman warned us that the damage from eating sugar while feeling completely fine took 10 full years to manifest as permanent blindness.
10 years of silent damage.
It forces us to examine our own daily lives and ask, what comfortable habits are we indulging in today? Simply because the invoice won't arrive for another decade. Are we confusing a delayed reaction with an immunity?
Just because the cane on the walls looks good today doesn't mean you shouldn't check the framing for termites. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you next time.
Stay curious, everyone.